I'm going to call it Throne Creator.
Ooh.
Ooh, ooh.
Like a throne creator.
I was going to go with Lord Developer,
Ooh,
but
Lord Developer's good.
Selling River Tycoon. Hey there. Welcome to the Tabletop Travel Guide, the podcast where we explore fictional worlds and civilizations right from the comfort of our own tables. I'm Tyler, and this past week in my Monday group, the party who has been exploring a dungeon, it's been a big old dungeon crawl, found a bar in the middle of one of the floors.
Just in the dungeon?
In the dungeon. And yeah, I'm not going to actually spoil anything because I've said what campaign this is. But they found a bar, and they heard stuff coming from the side, and they were about to kick in the door, and they kick in the door, and there's a bunch of things just drinking, hanging out, and they all stared, and it's like deep in the dungeon. So I ended off on the campaign, or I ended off on the session that time, and they're like, we don't know what to do. We're used to killing things.
That's a perfect transition.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm Ryan. I have not played a TTRPG since we last recorded because we did anime things. We watched Gurren Lagann, both movies.
Gurren Lagann.
It was awesome and confusing and wonderful.
Anime is wild, but it was fun seeing both your nephew.
Yes, my 11-year-old nephew.
It was fun seeing him experience it and find how weird it is as an 11-year-old, but it was also fun watching Charles, who is obviously our friend Charles, and had never seen it before, so seeing him react when all of us knew what was going on.
It's a good time. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And I'm Sam, and I did not watch anime this week, but I got to start the finale arc for my campaign, and during that, learned a little bit about exploration rules, which I will admit I do not know that much about. So, learning for everyone.
As purveyors of Pathfinder and Pathfinder apologists, one thing all of us have been garbage at doing in all of our campaigns is exploration rules, which are super useful. We just never use them.
I was wondering why when I explicitly a couple times I've been like, Sam, I scout ahead, and you're like, great, you scout ahead, and then you guys all get there, and I'm like,
don't know what that means.
Okay.
Yeah, because at one point, like anything else, it's like, okay, I'm gonna stealth and go here. We're used to like the old dungeon crawl of like, I stealth and go here, I stealth and go here, I stealth and go here, I search and go there, and then it's just like, there's rules for this. We really gotta use them.
We just forget to use them every time.
So yeah, that'll be on our to learn list for us.
Yeah. Yes, to learn. We all can grow as players. So with that, reminder that you can support us on Patreon. There's a link in our show notes and also on the page on our website. You can also search us at Tabletop Travel Guide Podcast on Patreon itself. There is a poll out there right now for our Q1 episode into organizations. Last time I saw it, looks like Pathfinder Society is winning in terms of what people want us to do a deep dive into. So if you're any level of patron, you can vote in that. Go check it out. So we don't have anything. We misspoke. So we will dive right into our topic for the day. Sam.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to take you to the River Kingdoms today. So the River Kingdoms are where the concurrent campaigns that I'm running are located. So I had done a bunch of research on the River Kingdoms already for this. And incidentally, we are going to go to none of the places that I used for that campaign.
So this is like 6 months in the making and also completely irrelevant to the campaign you're running.
Yes, but you'll get to see then all of the fun things that I had to try to narrow down from when I was trying to decide where I wanted to set my campaign, because it's a little bit of homebrewy stuff.
I do like how when we first started this podcast and before Sam joined on as a host, even when we talked about it, Sam was like, I want to do River Kingdoms when you get to it. So a year later, she's still the host.
We're finally here.
What books did you use for this?
I only used A Guide to the River Kingdoms.
Okay.
That's all
And
you need.
there's a lot of information in there, so I actually didn't feel like I really needed to pull in any secondary sources.
Nice.
If I'd really wanted to deep dive, but I already felt like I had too much information, I could have pulled stuff also from the Kingmaker adventure path. But that really only gets into like a small chunk of the River Kingdoms.
Yeah.
So
it's called A Guide to the River Kingdoms. Cool.
It's one of the campaign setting books.
Nice.
So, and it came out in 2010. So the information in there isn't quite up to date with everything right now. But I think that most of this isn't going to be significantly different than what's going on in 2E.
Right.
Cool.
So,
cool.
Yeah. So jumping right into the River Kingdoms. So we are south of Brevoy. We are west of Resmirin. And we are kind of in that far eastern part of the middle of the inner sea country.
East of Resmirin.
Yes.
And this is north of Galt, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're back
So
around.
we're-
We're touching it.
We're literally all the way back around, and then we just needed to do Lake and Carthen, and
Yep.
then Avistan's done. Yeah.
Yeah, so River Kingdoms borders Numeria, Keonan, Galt, Resmirin. They're close to Taldor too, so they're kind of just right in the middle of all of these other bigger
Is big.
countries.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big chunk of land too, which is why it's multiple kingdoms.
Mm-hmm.
So going way, way, way back, the land that currently is the River Kingdoms once belonged to the elves of Keonan.
Oh, okay.
It was called at that time Telvurin, which
Telvurin.
in that language is the shifting lands. And it was used for hunting and sport for noble elves.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So long, long, long ago, that's what it was for. And then once the elves leave to pop back over through the elf gates to safety, then that's when humans start moving into these lands and start taking them over. So because the River Kingdoms are so different and vast, we're going to do kind of our zoom out of all of the River Kingdoms. So just what is it, essentially? So the current lay of the land for this area and what all of these different territories are going to have in common. So the land, it's called the shifting lands because we have these various landmarks that shift around, right? Like, so we have it's full of rivers, which if, we can all remember back to science class, there's erosion.
You can't
right?
stop erosion.
So the land is going to move and change a little bit
Yeah.
as our natural things move and change here. The other big thing about this area is that kingdoms rise and fall.
Yeah.
And it can be incredibly quick. Like a kingdom can rise up and be gone in a year, or some of them can last for centuries or thousands of years, depending on how well they do.
Fair.
The other staple of the River Kingdoms is banditry.
Oh, good.
We got the three pillars of a kingdom: shifting rivers, erosion, and bandits.
Yeah. So that's pretty much everywhere. Some of the areas are going to be a little safer than others, but banditry is kind of the national pastime of this area.
They all root for their local banditry team.
They have like their
You'll see how
scarves
this
and their
goes.
banners, and they're like,
So even across all these varied kingdoms, the thing that kind of the people of this area have in common are being stubborn survivors.
I like it.
Oh.
This is a difficult place to live with all of the banditry and the constant changing in regimes. So people that live here are like, I'm gonna stick it out and I'm gonna survive.
You got to roll with the punches here.
A little bit, yeah. So current day, there are about 22 significant territories
gosh.
in the River Kingdoms that are all connected together by the rivers that give the area its name.
Okay.
We are not going to talk about all 22 today.
Say, Sam, I have a child.
Wait. This is our marathon episode. 4 hours. Get ready.
We are going to end up talking about the major 8
Okay.
of them. And I think we're going to end up splitting this episode into 2 just because I could not narrow down my information enough to
Every
make it timely.
Every time Sam kept telling me when she was writing, she's like, I'm at like 3 pages. I'm at like 5 pages. I get home, she's like, I'm at like 9 pages.
The people of the River Kingdoms require endurance, just like this episode.
There's just so many fun stories, and each of the territories are so completely different that it
Yeah.
felt like a disservice to not give their whole stories.
Sure.
So the Selen River is going to be our main body of water that's connecting all of these areas. So this is the river that runs through all of these territories. It has branches, it has tributaries. Confusingly, they are all called the Selen River.
Great.
Sometimes it's East Selen, Main Selen, West Selen.
It's like the main street.
The worst naming convention.
I'm by the Selen River, buddy.
Dude,
Just wildly confusing for
I'm
everyone.
by McDonald's? That doesn't help.
Which one? You know, the one. It's got the big M. It's like red roof. I don't know. It sells burgers. Like, I'm by McDonald's. Just find me.
So eventually, the Selen River does empty into the inner sea. So it's a big river.
The Southern
Dang.
Selen, yeah.
Yeah, so it goes
Yeah.
all the way down. The river is a major source of trade and travel, obviously, and no rivers are obstructed from these goals. So we'll talk about what that means. There's lots of different governments happening here, but everybody in the river kingdoms is united by the 6 river freedoms. So we're going to talk about what these 6 tenets of this
Okay.
area are.
Okay.
Some of them are fun, some of them are kind of weird, but it's fine. The first one is, say what you will, I live free. And this is essentially freedom of speech. So, you can say what you want to. The fun fact about it is if you use the spell silence, that is very frowned upon because you are now disabling someone's ability to speak freely.
Oh, you're depriving them of their first freedom rights.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
interesting.
The flip side of kind of this freedom of speech is the second river freedom, which is oath breakers die. So if you use your free speech and you make an oath, you better keep it. We're
Ooh.
taking it seriously.
Okay.
So you can say whatever you want, but you better be able to back up your word, essentially.
All right. Your speech has consequences.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The third one is walk any road, float any river. So what this one does is it prevents lords, kings, managers of territory from blocking land or water travel or charging tolls. However, it doesn't ensure that you are going to get through these places safely. It just means that the local governments can't say, no, you can't come through, or you have to pay 10 gold to walk through my land.
So this is my interstate trade freedom.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
No toll roads, just toll bandits.
Just bandits.
You're not wrong. Number 4 is courts are for kings. So what that means is here the law is malleable, and in each of their own territories, leaders can do what they want. So they're not confined to a building. Their law is everywhere in their territories, but it can change based on the territory you're in.
Okay.
Nice.
Number 5, slavery is an abomination. So here in the River Kingdoms, escaped slaves are always welcome, and they are considered free as soon as they arrive.
Nice.
Huh.
So one of the statistics in the book is that about a third of people who live in the River Kingdoms are either escaped slaves or can trace their lineage back to escaped slaves from other places.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, freedom is great.
Yeah.
It's like a standing emancipation proclamation.
Yeah. And then number 6, our last one is you have what you hold, which essentially means robbery is okay because you are giving the person the opportunity to resist or fight back, but stealing is still punishable. So you have what you hold, but you have to take it by force.
So robbery is still punishable.
No.
No, robbery is not.
Yeah, basically, if you
So-
steal something off somebody, they can fight back. If you steal somebody from an empty house,
That's wrong.
steal something from an empty house, that's punishable because they're not there to defend
You have to
themselves.
give them the opportunity to respond.
Yeah, so only home invasions.
So if you knock on the door and goes, "Sir, I'm about to rob you," you're like, well, okay, I have to defend
You're just like
myself.
the
now.
honorable highwayman. Stand and deliver.
I would never shake a man from behind.
But I will stab you in the face.
So I'm like, okay, at least there's a code, I guess.
The code.
So those are our 6 river freedoms. Those are things that are honored no matter where in the River Kingdoms you are. The other thing that spans through this whole territory is the Outlaw Council. And we'll talk a little bit more about its founding, but in general, the council is comprised of leaders of all of the major kingdoms at any given time. But really only those 8 major kingdoms that we're going to talk about have real power on the council.
Sure.
And they meet yearly to discuss matters that are relevant to the entirety
Okay.
of the River Kingdoms.
So everyone's invited, but we all know who the real power brokers are.
And you'll see why those different territories have the real power here. So that is our primer for the River Kingdoms. Are you guys ready to jump in to specific locations?
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, this seems okay. I'm not a huge fan of the robbery part of their the freedoms, but
Hey, just you can't hold on to your own stuff. Possession is 9/10 of the law, Ryan.
okay, yeah, sure.
I just have to brace myself because I love the River Kingdoms because they're just so bizarre. But I'm like, they're not going to score high on the travel guide.
The six freedoms,
but I love them.
The six freedoms already feel like it's like, yep, do whatever you want. This is not a group of rules that enhances stability.
Nope.
Cool. Let's dive in.
All right. So our first place that we are going to go to is Daggermark. Now, each of the places we're going to go has been around for varying amounts of time. So we're not really going to talk about what they were prior to the established kingdoms that they are, mainly because we don't have that information.
That's fair.
So Daggermark is founded sometime in the 4400s, so approximately 300 years ago.
Okay.
It was founded by the remnants of an assassin army of His Supreme Highness Afanasis
Athanasius looks right.
Who? This episode is going to be all the things Sam doesn't know how to pronounce yet again. They come here to this area in the River Kingdoms from the destroyed city-state of Yenkenabur. I keep wanting to say Yennefer of Yenk.
Of Yengeberg?
Yes. I was like, that's not right. This is not The Witcher.
Yengeberg.
And that is in the interior of Kazmaron.
Okay, so hold on. What is an assassin army?
Yeah, like...
Look, we're going to get there, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to explain what the assassin army is,
I know.
It's an army of assassins.
Yeah, but I kind of like... If you have an army of something of people, the assassin ability kind of goes down.
It's like an army of ninjas. Like, what is an army of ninjas?
All right, well, we're gonna
An
define
empty
it for
field.
you.
Okay, Sam. Sam will get us there.
So Athanius, he vows that he's going to found a new city based on the tenets of his assassins.
Great.
And the tenets of the assassins are life, death, and the vessel between.
Okay.
The vessel between is what the holy warriors of this army are named because they escort their targets from the kingdom of the living to the kingdom of the dead.
Good Lord.
That's kind of metal.
Right?
Okay. We're escorts. Oh, that's cool. We're going to kill you now. Wait, what?
We're going to escort you.
Escort you.
Right to
the death.
So they come across a small settlement on the Selin River. We're in the middle-ish of the River Kingdoms for this. So we're main Selin area. At this point, this small settlement is called Rivermark. When they show up with their, remnant army of assassins, they give the current inhabitants of Rivermark the option to flee, join, or die. Most of them are cool with joining.
To be fair, those are like the three options.
Yeah, those are the three options.
So they gave them a good choice.
Right? Yeah. So most people are like, okay, that's cool. So I keep saying his name incorrectly. Athanasius.
Athanasius.
Ooh, there's just so many syllables. It's rough.
There's a lot of A's in there.
I know. Ooh, okay, so Athanasius and his descendants build Daggermark here on the site of Rivermark. So they turn this into a fortress town. It's got double curtain walls. It has a fortified dock. They make a patrolled road system that feeds farms and free-range goods that can come into the city. So they really make something that's a lot more stable than what was there.
Okay.
And also much more like fortified and protected.
Good job, assassins.
The other thing that they make is they establish a school for assassins.
Okay, maybe not so good job.
It's called the Daggermark Assassins Guild.
Okay.
The school for people who can't kill good and want to do other things good as well.
So they train anyone that wants to be taught in the methods of the Yenkenabur warriors. And this fighting style is essentially what creates you into the vessel between.
Nice.
Or the
Great.
escort to death.
Great.
Escorts to...
So at this point in time, Daggermark, even though it is full of assassins, is also full of order. They basically get rid of the bandits in the surrounding lands because who's gonna, come up against a bunch of assassins, right?
Every man, woman, and child is here to kill me.
Oh, never mind. So the city's safe, and things carry on pretty normally for some time until about 100 years ago. So we're about 4620-ish. A Chelish prisoner named Count Ambrus Imre arrives in Daggermark after escaping his homeland. And as we all know, we're fine with escapees here. It's chill.
Yeah.
So he establishes the Poisoners Guild in
Guys.
Daggermark.
The guild for people who can't poison well and want to do other things well is good.
So he gets in with the Daggermark leadership by agreeing to teach them his poisoning methods. He also maybe killed the king at the time, just a couple months after he got there, because His Supreme Highness Athenaeus VIII choked to death at a dinner, mysteriously.
Look,
Okay.
it's a demonstration.
So maybe he was
Sure.
poisoned?
Or a chicken bone. Who could say?
Or chicken bone. They certainly have an edge.
Right? So the king dies. This prompts the two guilds, our assassins and our poisoners, to kind of come together because now it's like, okay, what do we do with leadership here, right? So this is actually what gets the Outlaw Council into motion. They send a call out to the other river kingdoms at the time to form the Outlaw Council, which would address issues that impact multiple kingdoms. So like the most powerful one having a king assassinated and having some upheaval in the region. So after this, the king has died. They've called the Outlaw Council. They meet for the first time in Daggermark. And this is when they officially codify the 6 river freedoms. The fourth of which is courts are for kings. So this is where we really get this kind of push against like regular government on a whole scale. So Daggermark is like, cool, courts are for kings. We have no courts. We don't need a king. And they kind of fall into anarchy.
Well,
I mean, when you... the leaders of the city are the Assassin's Guild and the Poisoners Guild.
It's not great.
I don't know what we expected here.
So-
well. If it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
So Daggermark becomes mob rule for a little bit in here. And then, of course, nothing gets done.
Yeah.
Right? Because we don't have anyone really putting things together.
Yeah, because the assassins are in charge.
Well, it's the assassin and the poisoners, and no one is telling either one of them to, like, look at a common goal. So in the winter of 4657, thousands of residents nearly starved to death because it's cold, they ran out of food, no one really planned for this. And so at this point, everyone's like, well, maybe we do need some kind of government.
Okay.
Or someone looking out for things.
Okay.
We need some structure. So the Assassin's Guild says, okay, we have a plan for this. We can create structure.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
They announce that the students of the guild need practice. So they can be hired out by regular citizens for a fair price to send a message. Send a message to anyone.
Somebody probably mistook that as like, I need a telegram sent. Can you please send this to
It's
my
like high school
relative?
candygrams.
There are only 2 rules. You can only hire a student assassin once per year, and you can't target a member of the military for assassination.
What?
Can you guess what happens next?
People...
A lot of people want to join the military so they don't die.
Everybody joins the military. And now we have a standing military that can stand against other countries and brings everybody together and creates some stability
Man,
again.
when the only tool in your toolbox is a hammer, everything is a nail.
I still like how I'm like still want to know where they got from point A of like, okay, people are starving, we need some infrastructure. Let's assassinate people and get a bigger military, to point B of like, it's stable. I feel like there's a lot of infrastructure that's not answered by a military of assassins.
Well, here's where we land with this. Currently, in a given month, only 5 citizens in Daggermark die from assassination or poisoning, but murder and similar violent crimes are extremely rare and property crimes nearly unheard of.
Oh.
Because if you steal from someone, they might just hire a student assassin to kill you.
Forever purge. Except everybody. I don't know.
This is such a bad idea. This is such a bad idea.
This isn't a great form of government. I didn't vote for you.
So there have been various lords of Daggermark that come and go at this point. Some are more effective, some get some things done, some don't last long, some are assassinated, you know, it happens.
Weird how that happens.
Yeah, so essentially the Assassins Guild and the Poisoners Guild are in charge of this territory.
Yeah.
So if you really want to learn how to, you know, kill people, it's a great place to go.
It's the hub of people who want to learn skills to kill people.
Yes.
And that's why Daggermark is the most powerful of the River Kingdoms.
Yeah, that's a very walk softly and carry a big stick, and they just have the biggest stick, I guess.
Yep.
It's true. Okay.
But they don't walk softly either for assassins.
Yeah, we're assassins. We'll let you know we're assassins. I told
Didn't
you.
say they were subtle assassins.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the first of our kingdoms. Are you
Nice.
ready to move on to kingdom number 2?
Let's do it.
Yes. Hopefully we have a better system of government than stab and poison.
Well,
That was actually the peak of River Kingdoms.
And that is the most stable of the River
some
Kingdoms.
of them have better ones. You'll just laugh when I tell you where we're going next.
Okay.
Cool.
Next, we're going to go to Geralton.
Okay.
And Geralton is the kingdom that borders Galt.
Heyo.
So I'm
And
sure
it's-
it's very stable.
It's a nation full of people who have fled Galt.
Oh no.
So it was founded by Obadas Nazul, a wealthy bank owner from the Galton city of Edme. He fled Galt when his bank was forcibly taken over. So he grabs his friends, they flee into the River Kingdoms, and then they settle into this area. It is inhabited when they show up, but they just forcefully take it over and rename it Little Galt.
Little Galt.
Sure.
So Nazil, he becomes the mayor of the
I
area,
elect myself mayor.
pretty
Of
much.
Little Galt.
With all of my friends. But this area continues to grow because more people that are like, I'm piecing out of Galt keep showing up.
Checks
and
out.
as it grows, he doesn't have as much control over the area. He's not like feeling super great about keeping everybody in line. So he ends up setting up an advisory council and they start to rule, and they rule until he dies 2 years later.
Okay.
So he's kind of setting up
Mhm.
a little bit of government. So the council then appoints a new leader, a man named Hanan Geralt, who his main goal that he starts suggesting to everybody, we should reclaim our land in Galt.
Great.
Good luck.
He also decides that we're not going to be Little Galt anymore. We're going to be renamed Geralton.
This is basically the same name.
Well, his last name
Name
is
is
Geralt.
Geralt.
Yeah.
So he has renamed it to himself.
Yeah.
Little
of course.
Geralt.
Yeah. Apparently, the name Little Galt was found to be demeaning by a lot of the
But they want to
ex-noblemen.
go back. Sure.
I would just call
Whatever.
it Better Galt.
Better Galt.
So
Think
West
of it.
Galt.
West Galt. North
West,
Galt.
North
North
Galt.
Galt.
Northwest.
Northwest
That's
Galt.
fine. So since this point in history, the governor and the council have shared a somewhat equal rule over the city-state. The council is 5, the governor is 1, and that continues to be the makeup of the government up through present day.
Okay.
Now, in 4687, so I don't have exact dates on when Geralton was founded originally, but since we have 2 leaders before 4687, I'm assuming only within the last 100.
I was going to guess
100
30
so
or 40 maybe. I don't know.
years.
Yeah.
So in 4687, which is the first date that I actually have for this territory area, brigands invade Geralton.
Mhm.
They are repelled, which is great. However, they set fire to some notable structures, and Governor Geralt dies.
Poor Geralt.
Right?
Rest in peace, Geralt.
So sad. So then the council appoints Lord Marinus Sherlorn
Marnius?
as governor. I am
Marinus?
Marinus?
Marnius.
Marnius?
Marnius Charlorn.
Anyway, he's appointed governor, and he is still the current governor.
Okay.
Oh,
So he's been ruling for about 50-ish.
That's pretty good.
that's,
Yeah,
that's
he's
stable.
having a good run. So he's appointed. Refugees from Galt continue to come into Geralton. It is a little bit dangerous to get here with all the bandits on the roads.
Mhm.
So it's not like a super easy trek. So we're not having like tons of people show up every day.
Sure.
But they do continue to come through. The majority of Gralton citizens were formerly nobility in Galt. So it's a little bit rough of a transition when they get here.
I used to be a banker. Now I'm a boop shoveler.
Yes. Yes. So most of them like adjust to like the idea of like, well, we need industry and things for this civilization to continue. So I guess I will do some labor or get a job, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this tends to be an area that's a little bit more difficult because it just has a lot of people that are refugees who are not used to the lifestyle showing up here. So they don't have a fabulous time. The other fun thing about Gralton is they have several secret societies
Yes.
that are all aimed at how do we regain what we've lost in Galt.
Of course.
Okay.
So there are 4.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I expected,
Everybody
like,
has different
2.
ideas. The first one is the Hand That Takes. This is the largest society. They support the idea of building an army to storm portions of Galt by force.
Cool.
The next one is the Wise. They are called gabbers by outsiders. They find diplomacy and bribery to be better tools than violence. So they hope to slip back into Galt with, some power already based on, money and bribes and all that fun stuff.
Okay.
They are led by one of the council members as well.
Nice.
The next one is the Nameless. They are unofficial and an unnamed society. They are striving for peace and an end to the revolution. They don't think we should go back to Galt until the fighting is over.
Okay.
So they're kind of like, we're going to hang out, peace, but they're not really doing much, so
Yeah.
it's fine.
So this seems like barely a society.
I know. It's like, we don't really know what we're doing.
And
it's
the
fine.
rest of us.
The last one is the Order of Vengeance. And they are really about reclamation through force, mainly through a lens of revenge. They all openly follow Callistria, and one of Callistria's temples is almost entirely made of members of the
Wait,
Order
but how
of
was
Vengeance.
that different from the Hand That Takes? We want an army, but like more murdery.
One of them is noble army. The other one is underhanded.
Sure. We want more vengeance for our
Yes.
army.
Make it real bloody. No. So that is Gralton. They are, again, primarily functioning as how do we get back to Galt? So,
Huh.
Okay. Well, there you go.
an interesting stop on the river.
Interesting.
Back onto our riverboat. We are going
Continue
to...
on.
So far, this has
Travel.
not been a fun cruise.
This is a weird place that we've gone.
Viking cruises aren't all our
I was gonna say, I feel like I got swindled onto this one.
What kind of deal did we get on this one?
It was real cheap.
We got paid, Tyler. They paid us to go on this cruise.
Oh. It's always a catch.
Our third kingdom that we are going to stop at is Lambreth. So Lambreth, as it now exists, arose from the joining of 3 rival merchant families. The oldest of these 3 is the Cullertons. They founded the settlement in this area in 4355. 2 rivers meet here. That's where that is. One of the other families founded another settlement in 4394, and then the final family founded a different settlement in 4424.
So we're like 3 different sort of city-states initially?
Yeah, they're different settlements all in the same geographical area,
Okay.
and they're all founded within 75 years of each
Okay,
other.
Sure.
So each family has its own, like, tiny city-state.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The problem is that they're all worried about being annexed by somebody else that's bigger and badder and has more force, right? So in 4502, Leota Cullerton, and she's the head of the family at that point, proposes that the 3 families join together and rule as triunes in a 3-family oligarchy.
Last time we dealt with the triunes on Cthon showed up.
Say, triunes feel like they never work.
Well, they do okay,
Oh,
okay.
for a
Nice.
little bit.
They always work for a little bit.
They don't have the physical power of Daggermark, but they have a bunch of wealth and trade connections. So they're able to be fairly stable mostly because they can buy stability.
Oh, okay.
And they're all merchant families
That's
too.
fair.
So they have a good run of trade
Okay.
here. The thing that then becomes the problem for them is when Rasmir rises
Oh,
to
no.
power. So Lambreth has a direct border with Razmirin. So this is where, when Razmir is looking to expand, he starts to push into. So in 4674, the other river kingdoms are marshaling their own forces to protect themselves, so they do not come help.
Great.
So money can only do so much.
Yeah, and this territory starts to be infiltrated by acolytes of Razmir. So the Triunes are now like, oh, what do we do? Like, this is bad. We don't have, like, the military force for this. What are we going to do? Their answer shows up when they are visited by an exiled knight from Andoran named Camden Arnifax.
Oh.
So Arnifax shows up and he's like, I have a solution to your Razmir problem. But once I solve it for you, you have to make me Lord of Lambreth.
Oh, that's a deal. That's some cojones.
So they accept, assuming that either he'll die in the effort or they'll just kill him later. Unfortunately for the Triunes, they didn't fully understand this man when they made a deal with him. So Arnifax marshals an army that includes his own household guard, mercenaries, shadow beasts, and hellspawn.
Oh.
Great.
So he shows up to this battle riding a nightmare steed, which a nightmare is a statted out creature in Pathfinder. They're like flaming horses from hell. So Arnifax and his forces slaughter the Razmirans on this territory in 4675. And this event becomes known as the Moonlight Massacre.
That's kind of a cool name.
Man.
And it's now celebrated yearly as a holiday.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
woo.
I haven't heard any huge negatives yet.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll get there. So after this victory, the current Lord Cullerton suggests a delay in naming Arnifax as Lord.
Bro.
Come
Because
on.
he doesn't want to give up his power.
Bro.
So Arnifax just straight up snaps his neck.
I'm with Arnifax in this one.
I stand
I
with
stand by Arnifax
I
right
stand
now.
with the Hell Beasts.
He then also murders Lady Cullerton.
Okay, maybe
Okay,
I
well,
don't stand with
that's
Arnifax
kinda-
as much.
Retake it back.
And over their corpses is quoted as saying, "Betrayal is a crime, and any crime must be punished twice. Once for a lesson learned, and once for a lesson remembered. Remember always who rules in Lambreth."
That's pretty badass, if I'm
That's
being
pretty
honest.
The
I mean,
other two families are like, well, okay, you're the Lord. Here you go.
Yeah, that totally checks out.
I'm back on with no. Back on
I
with.
think I'm in the basement hiding from him now.
You're like, okay. So over the years since then, people have tried to take Arnifax out, but this only has ended with them being publicly tortured and executed.
I'm back out.
Notably, in 4698, he burned all the manors of some lords who were conspiring against him. The interesting thing is that all of these manors were burned in a single night and were located in Druma, Daggermark, and Seven Arches, which is a different river kingdom that we'll get to. So he's got some
He's got a thing.
some stuff going on.
I really just wonder why, what he could have possibly done to exile him from
I was
Andoran.
just say, so they didn't do the background check. They're like, and you say you're from Andoran, yes? Yes. Any reason why you're here? Nope.
Just an expat.
Just spreading freedom.
I mean, I was a slave to Andoran. Don't you not have slaves?
Don't you?
Well, you're free here. Yeah, sure. Go kill the bad guys and you can be our mayor. Whatever. No questions.
Yikes.
So justice is harsh in Lambreth. The
No.
population is virtually imprisoned within the territory, but other kingdoms do not mess with Lambreth, and Arnifax rarely turns his ire to his own citizens.
I mean, okay, as long as this is mostly like noble shenaniganry.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, it's not great, but he's not out there massacring.
Yeah.
No, so it's really just don't get on the dude's bad side or try to take him out, but at least you're in a kingdom that's probably not going to get overrun by any other kingdoms.
Yeah, and I don't know, Viscera assassins.
Yeah.
Okay.
This seems a little better, I guess.
Okay. So not bad.
Okay.
We've got some order in here
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
some rules. So that's Lambreth. I know you're all feeling very positive about the River Kingdoms right now.
Super
I
positive.
mean, Okay, yeah,
It could be
sure.
worse.
It could be worse. Yeah.
I think that's actually about as like worse as we get.
Okay.
Okay.
Somehow. So this is where we are going to pause on
Okay.
our river cruise. We will hit the other 5 of the 8 major kingdoms in next week's episode. We didn't want to overload anyone with too much information today or make a 2-hour
Yeah.
talking fest. So we are going to pause the kingdom narratives here. We're going to do our campaign and character, and then next week we will be back with the other 5 kingdoms, which maybe will be better.
Cool.
Maybe.
Cool.
I
Well,
hope so.
thank you, Sam. This has been an interesting start to our journey. Ryan and I will look at the return policy or the refund policy for our Viking cruise. But
Mhm.
yeah, we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
The real art of death is in poison. Sure, you could wield a blade, you could throw a knife, but the real subtlety is in putting together ingredients that will bring about someone's demise. Do you want to learn how to create death in a bottle? Join the Poisoners Guild.
Hey, welcome back, and thank you to our sponsors. Please don't send us a message. And so we go to a campaign with Ryan.
Yes, I really had to work hard for this one, Tyler.
Yeah.
So I have concocted
Oh dear.
a wonderful campaign where players, they travel around, they do good deeds, they eventually establish their own kingdom, they can choose to rule from their capital, they can do some more adventuring, they can
What-
build a base.
What do you
Wow,
call-
this sounds familiar.
What do you call this one, Ryan? What do you call this
I'm
campaign?
going to call it Throne Creator.
Ooh,
Ooh, ooh.
like a throne creator.
I was going to go with Lord Developer,
Ooh,
but
Lord Developer's good.
Selling River Tycoon.
yes.
That's actually a great name. Yeah, so in all seriousness, I did try to make something that was not Kingmaker.
Cool.
I was targeting level 5 to 10-ish.
Okay.
And I don't know much about the River Kingdoms. This was very much my first introduction from Sam.
Yeah.
My previous character in Sam's campaign is from Daggermark, so I had read like a little bit about the
Mhm.
Outlaw Council. So the way I wanted to frame all this was the Outlaw Council has decided to create a census
Ooh.
and take a measure from all the nations and citizens of the River Kingdom for some kind of reason.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any world where they could tax each other,
No, probably not.
but just maybe even from like an information perspective of like, if Razmir or like Tarbafon ever really stepped up, like would we have the manpower
Mhm.
to
Okay.
protect
Or maybe like
ourselves?
someone has prophesized a famine and
Yeah.
we don't
Sure.
know how many people to know how to feed people.
That's
Sure.
fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a very docile task. So you are going to all play as like bureaucrats. You're going to be census workers. And you are under strict orders to go around to different parts of the River Kingdom and to not intervene. You are not adventuring. You are there only to take the census count.
Cool.
Except, of course, you've talked to the Assassins in the Poisoners Guild, and they have given you like a bounty list of 10 people.
Oh,
no.
And so the guilds are paying you as like double agents to actually go around, use your cover as bureaucrats to find these extremely wanted individuals and take them out.
Amazing.
I like it.
Yeah. So I envisioned this almost as like a monster of the week kind of thing where all the individual stories probably aren't super connected. You can kind of just hop from town to town
Yeah.
to town. And what I would do is I would hand these physical dossiers to the players, and they would have all kinds of detailed information of like, oh, well, you know, this person lives here and this is where they were last sighted. This is the crime they're wanted for.
Oh, this is fun. I like this.
And of course, like me as the GM, I have a more detailed, bigger version of the
Yeah.
dossier. So as you go around and collect information and collect census information, their players, I'm sure you will not be able to avoid intervening in random things every week. You'll get more information on those people in the
Yeah.
dossiers. I took a shot and just created some semi-randomly generated bounties. There is Grillitus, a male kobold, wanted for serial poisoning of town wells.
Oh,
It's part of the Poisoners Guild.
he's
why I've
gone
won.
rogue.
Yeah.
See? We have Elkia, an unknown shapeshifter wanted for druidic crimes.
Oh.
Cool.
I've invented Norvid, a Kelid human former assassin who possesses interesting guild secrets that need taking
Ooh.
care of.
Mm.
Krokug, a male orc wanted for theft of noble furniture. Can't steal nobles' chairs.
Fair.
Don't do it.
And Selena, a female Chelish human who's wanted for use of black magic.
Okay. I like it.
Burning
Yeah.
all the witches.
Yeah, and I would hand those dossiers and kind of see what stuck with the players. And
Well, I feel like that could even be something you did is like, if you couldn't run a campaign session, you could just hand a dossier to somebody else and like they could run it. It's like kind of like a Pathfinder Society scenario where you don't really need to know everything. Just like, oh yeah, just run this with the characters.
Well, and I like that you can basically drop it into whatever city you want, which is cool. So it's, I don't know, it's just fun. It's a fun way to explore all the different places in a wildly diverse area.
yeah, especially because I didn't know anything about the River Kingdoms really. I was like, well, we could probably just put this anywhere. I'm sure there's people hiding out.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I like that. Cool. So for characters today, we are doing something new.
Ooh.
So not only did I prep a character, but as we have a couple lore master patrons,
Ooh.
I've reached out to one of them to create a character for this country.
Oh boy.
So
Fun.
I will talk about my character, and then our patron, Connor H. I have his character right up, and so we're gonna say what his character does and did, and fit that into the campaign as well.
Okay.
So you have 2
Fun.
characters for your campaign.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So the first character is mine, and I kind of just decided to send it with this character, and I feel like it actually kind of works with your campaign. So I have Feylara Nuana.
Okay.
She is an elf investigator, and she is neutral good, but I was trying to figure out, like, what would make her unique? I don't know. What's her hook? And I was just scrolling through the backgrounds, and you know what I picked? Time Traveler.
Oh,
Oh
good.
no.
So Time Traveler is a rare background, and you are back in time from something. So for her story, she came from the future
Sure.
of the River Kingdoms.
Mhm.
She was an inventor in her past or future life.
Oh boy.
And my guess is that this is kind of, Terminator-esque. She's from the River Kingdoms area, and at some point in the future, it is either an apocalypse or a
no.
dictatorship or something like bad is going on in the River
Right.
Kingdoms. Maybe some players who went through Kingmaker did a bad job of it and took over everything. Who could say? So for whatever the reason of why it's crappy, she, along with her other kind of guildmates as an inventor, built something to let her go back in time to try to root out the cause of this terrible future.
Amazing.
So she was sent by herself because she's an elf, and I gave her the ancient elf heritage, which means you've basically over 100 years old. You're pretty old.
Yeah.
And so the thought was, they're not sure what the inciting incident that caused this. The history books have been kind of destroyed, so they're sitting her far enough back that if she needs to live long enough to like figure it out,
She has the time.
she has the time.
Okay.
So she gets sent back and basically kind of turns into an investigator, and would fit perfectly into this campaign to go on a Monster of the Week, because she is not entirely sure what causes the apocalypse in the future, but she knows something is going to cause it. So joining this campaign to be like, these might be some like petty theft people, and I'll take care of them too, but like we might find the person that I need to kill
Ooh.
to save the future of our
I
world.
like this. Yes.
Yeah.
Very fun.
For in this case, she joins any and all quests that might lead to the key that stops the future. And so your campaign is kind of that perfect quest for that. And I also kind of picked a rare background, because sometimes you look at them and like, oh, this is going to be a lot of effort on the GM. But I feel like you can have a rare background that like the GM doesn't have to do a lot of work for this one.
Mhm.
Like I have my history. You can throw some Easter eggs in there, but like I still can slot it into your campaign without you having to be like, what? Like,
Right. Well, that's exactly what I thought at first. I'm like, do I need to randomly now like plot out what causes this future? But no, probably not. No.
Yeah. And like you might be, again, it could be so early in the process that like you kill the furniture guy and he turns out to be the inciting incident. So like it's solved.
Based on the profits of selling shares, he sired an empire.
Yes. He's an entrepreneur. Cool. So that is Phalara. So that is one of your characters' campaign, or one of your characters for this campaign. So the next character for your campaign, thank you again to Connor H., our patron. So he brought a character named Gustav or Gus Steeljaw.
Gus Steeljaw.
Yeah, Gus Steeljaw. He is a barbarian, and he's a lizard folk. Connor said he looks and acts pretty similar to an alligator more than a lizard. So he's kind of got that, like, if you ever played Starfinder, it's kind of like the Vesk.
Yeah.
So just kind of more alligator, crocodile type look. He's a barbarian that was raised on the seas and grew up by the water. And his father was a pirate and raised Gus to become the same. So maybe a pirate or part of one of the bandits on the rivers.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the Selene River bandits. So his thing is he barrel rushes enemies at full speed and he attacks head on. He has feats like sudden charge, bashing charge, barreling charge, determined dash. In my head, when I was reading this, it kind of reminded me of like King K. Rool from Donkey Kong.
Yep, 100%.
It's like the big old alligator that's like rushing people. So he's an animal instinct barbarian. He picked shark, but he would try to reflavor it as alligator.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Of course. Yeah, when he was younger, his ship he was on sank and he almost drowned, but was brought back to life by another passing ship.
Oh,
And so, yeah, he's kind of just one with the water. He likes exploring around. He loves all rivers and marshy swamps. So that way he knows, like, even if he's going inland in the River Kingdoms, you're always near water.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So he's like kind of living that. So that's how he ended up. And that's how he settled in the River Kingdoms. And obviously, as a pirate, banditry is pretty allowed. So
Of course.
that's a good place to go. So my assumption is maybe he could probably be almost a guide for this. Like if he's a pirate all over the River Kingdoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine.
then he's gonna know how to travel and where
Yeah,
to go.
so he
Well,
might-
and the census is everybody, right?
Yeah.
So you're probably going to bandit camps.
Yeah.
It's probably actually a great hook for a session. It's like, these are the meanest, baddest, most awful bandits in the entire region. You don't need to just go figure out how many they are. Like, you just need to talk to them, figure it out, and you can leave.
Yeah.
And then he's your in.
Yeah, he'd be a good in for this, and probably jump in. One of the questions I ask is, what is an interesting quirk about your character? And one of them is, he has a ticklish tail. So there you go. He also has a stuffed animal rabbit called Squishy that he often has conversations with.
Oh, jeez.
And he loves puzzles and riddles, even though he is absolutely terrible at them.
Stop.
So this is cute, cuddly, barbarian alligator man.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine Gus like barbarian animal instinct rage person, but is
I would like make him do fort saves to resist being tickled.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely, you should.
yeah. Cool. Well, I think Gus and Phalara would get along
Oh, yeah.
swimmingly.
Yes, I would love to see all of Gus's adventures on the river.
Yeah.
It's important to have a good, diverse cast when you're going around and surveying the lands.
It would also be funny if you like you either met him the first time as like, there's an alligator on the river. It's like, oh, nope, that's just Gus. Talking to this little squishy.
I don't know. Is it better to introduce? Oh, yeah. Is it better to introduce him doing an awesome thing, or better to introduce him like, and then in the side conference room, there's an alligator talking to a stuffed animal. This is your bodyguard.
I could see it both.
Oh.
I could see it both ways. They both would be great. Cool. Well, thanks again to Connor, who wrote this in.
Very exciting. Very cool.
Yeah. So I think we will hold off on scoring, obviously, until episode 2.
We got to get through all of the other territories.
We don't want to prematurely put a score that we're going to regret next episode. So we'll score this episode, or we'll score next episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're not gonna score this episode.
We'll
Yeah.
score next episode. But again, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you to all our listeners. Again, if you're enjoying the podcast, tell your friends. If you want to reach out to us, hit us up on Instagram or our email at tabletoptravelguidepodcast@gmail.com. Again, you can check our website that has, we're still doing listener surveys. So do that there. Otherwise, I think that's about it. So we'll see you next week for the conclusion of River Kingdoms.
Safe
the
sailing.
exciting conclusion.
The exciting conclusion.
Exciting conclusions.
Yes. Safe travels, everybody.